Good evening. Good evening. This is the regular City Council meeting of the City of Rockport for Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. It is 6:30 p.m. I will ask that you stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You can have a seat. Establish a quorum. We'll have a roll call. Ward 1.
Here.
Ward 2 is absent. Ward 3.
Here.
Ward 4.
Here.
Mayor here. First item on the agenda is a presentation by the police chief for promotion of Officer Timothy Sawicki.
Mayor, council, city staff, members of our community, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to do what is really my favorite part of this job. Officer Tim Sawicki has been with us for about 3 years. He is going on his 13th year in law enforcement, I think. Began his career, he graduated from the Alamo Area Council of Governments Police Academy in 2010. He started actually here in Aransas County with the Sheriff's Office, later moving to the Atascosa County Sheriff's Office and then to the Jordanton Police Department, where he did the bulk of his career, or a lot of his career, as a K-9 sergeant when he left there. And I like to say we stole him, brought him back down to the coast to our department. Most all of his time, or all of his time so far, he's been in our patrol division and done really great work for us. Captain Anderson, our CID commander, held some interviews. I took part in that. I take a personal role looking at work record, everything from attendance, disciplinary things, all of those matters to pick our best candidate. I can say that any one of the 4 that showed interest and that we looked at, I think would have done a great job. But Officer Sawicki was our choice, and I think is going to make a really fine detective. So we're going to promote him today. Over the last 2 weeks, he's been in the CID unit and has been training. I'm going to say that I haven't changed my mind, but it's been the busiest 2 weeks for CID since I've been here, with shootings and there was a fire, I'll go on and on, but nonetheless, I think that's mere coincidence. But needless to say, about to be Detective Sawicki has been drinking from the fire hose. I think he's going to do an outstanding job. Some things I'll point out about him: his numerous certifications. He's a field training officer, one of the ones I've relied heavily on to train new officers coming into the RPD. He's a breath test operator, mental health peace officer. He's a certified canine handler. He's a T-Cole certified instructor. And recently, we sent him to Georgia, actually, to be what is a very rare thing in our industry, a standardized field test instructor to teach officers how to do do DWI investigations, or not just how to do that, how to teach others how to do standardized field sobriety testing. It's a rare one. We're lucky to have that, so he can teach those classes to our folks and other Coastal Bend area police officers. He's also a certified bike patrol officer. Tim's wife is the ISS coordinator at the Rockport Fulton Middle School. She also coaches middle school basketball as well as middle school and high school softball. They have 4 children here in Rockport. They attend Rockport Fulton schools and are very involved in youth sports and the community. Needless to say, they are ingrained in the Rockport Fulton community. In his free time, Officer Sawicki enjoys spending time with his family and his friends and attending country music concerts and watching sports. He's kind of become, in the 3 years that he's been here, one of the biggest parts of our department, our city, and our community. So with no further ado, we can step over here. I bet there's some pictures to be taken. One of the things that we do is ceremonious. We always have someone of importance to the officer pin their badge on their shirt. We'll do that in a minute. This doesn't happen in a vacuum in a police officer's career as they promote up. We don't do this alone. You have to have a very important support group. My wife is here with us. She comes to as many of these as she can because she knows better than anyone. And I know that I'm here in my position in no small part because of her and the support of my family, her, my daughters, my individual family, our close family, her parents, everyone else. Tim's family, his wife, his kids are here. And his important individual that's going to pin this badge on is his son. So we'll let him do that real quick. We'll step out of the way, and that's their moment. Put direct pressure on the wound if you need. Stop that. Congratulations. I promise you won't get called out as much as you have in this next 2 weeks. Thank you, Mayor.
I, Tim J. Rowe, Mayor of the City of Rockport, do hereby proclaim April 30th through May 6, 2023 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our professional municipal clerk, Teresa Valdez, and to all professional municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. In witness whereof I have hereto set my hand and caused the great seal of the city of Rockport, Texas to be affixed this 25th day of April, 2023. Teresa? Thank you for all you do when you out without you. It's a pleasure to work with you. The next item on the agenda is citizens to be heard. We have several people who have signed up to speak tonight. We have several pieces of paper that have been provided to us on the citizen participation forms. And because there are several and they are on about 3 agenda items, they will be called when that agenda item is called for this meeting, because there are many to avoid confusion. So when that agenda item is called, we will call you and you can speak. If you have signed up to speak on something that is not on the agenda, then your speaking time will come first. After that, the items will be called. When that item comes up, you can speak on that item. Citizens to be heard. This time, comments limited to 3 minutes will be taken from the audience from persons who have signed the speaker's card located at the table in the back of the training room in the service center and delivered to the city secretary before the meeting begins, or written comments received by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting on any agenda item or subject matter. They will be read, summarized in the minutes of the meeting. Persons wishing to address the council and have registered using the citizen precipitation form will have up to 3 minutes to speak. And again, this will be as the item is called. In accordance with Open Meetings Act, council may not discuss or take action on any item that's not been posted on the agenda. While civil criticism is not prohibited, disorderly conduct or disturbance of the peace, as prohibited by law, shall be cause for the chair to terminate the offender's time to speak. Do we have any on the items not on the agenda? Okay. So you will be called when the agenda item is called. Next item on the agenda is consent agenda. All consent agenda items listed are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. I am removing items number 12 and 13 from the consent agenda, and they will be considered separately. Other than that, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda minus items 12 and 13 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any further question or discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Using the chair's option, I am going to pull item number 21 before we go any further, and we're going to call that item and deal with it before we go on. Item 21 is deliberate and act on appointment of Messer, Fort, and McDonald PLLC to serve as legal counsel for the city of Rockport.
Mayor and council, recently you went through a selection process, and we had RFPs submitted. We had 6 people submit. We picked the top 3 to come in for interview, and after interviews and based on scores, Messer, Fort, McDonald came out at the top, and so I would ask that you appoint them as our official city attorney.
All right. Any questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll do this one. I move that the city council appoint Messer, Fort, and McDonald PLLC to serve as legal counsel for the city of Rockport.
Thank you. I have a second. I have a motion and a second. Any further question or debate? I'll call for vote. Ward 1?
Aye.
Ward 3?
Aye.
Ward 4?
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Thank you very much. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, going back to item number 12. If you have signed up to talk on item number 12, let me look at these and see. There is 1, 2. We will take you, then we will read some that have been sent to us already. Brian Phillips and Tammy Tomasco. Let me, if you will, let me read the item and what it says. I'm about to not do that. It'd be nice if everybody else knew what we were talking about. Deliberate and act on second and final reading of an ordinance amending Article 4 of the City of Rockport zoning ordinance number 1027 by changing the zoning and land located at 102 St. Francis Circle, also known as Lot 2, Block 1, Damasco Subdivision, 3.445 acres, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, from R1, First Single Family Dwelling District to B1, General Business District, to allow the use of monitored outside parking, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability and providing an effective date. Right here.
My wife Tammy, we currently live at 325 Griffith Drive, directly across the street from 102 St. Francis Circle, which we own. We're the owners of that property. Basically, nothing has changed since our last visit we had here. We want to do the monitored parking. We want to make it really nice. We want to emphasize we don't want to take away from anybody's home value, especially ours. We live directly across the street. We want to do something that very eye-appealing, privacy fences, and we acquired highway frontage so that it can enter and exit on the highway so it doesn't increase any traffic in the neighborhood. I plan on putting one gate across the street from our house so I can get access for maintenance for myself. And that's it. We understand that the city of Rockport has had that area slated for future commercial use. So eventually something's going to go in on that highway there. I just, as an owner and as living directly across the street, we want to control that. We want to have something that's really nice. We don't want a 7-Eleven or a Buc-ee's or anything like that to look at. We want to keep it, you know, where it's really nice.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chris Anderson.
Yes, I'm Chris Anderson. I live next door to the property that Brian's talking about. Not live there, I just now built the barndominium. And I'm with Brian on this. I have no problem with him getting this changed to the B1. And I'm sure he's gonna do something nice, you know, so some of the people have been complaining or whatever, but you know, one day I may want to change mine from residential to commercial because both of us have highway frontage there, and you know, it's all about the dollar bill, you know, so I'm with Brian on this, and I have no quarrels about changing it over.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks.
Anderson. I have two. Let me read these. I have one from a Jerry Lopez who lives at 309 St. Francis Circle. I would like to voice my opposition to the rezoning of Lot 102. I feel that this will create undue traffic issues and congestion in an area that's pretty much residential with people walking and kids riding bikes and so forth. It will only be a matter of time before we have some incident with traffic and a pedestrian. A lot is zoned residential and should stay residential. If they wanted to have a business, they should have bought a lot that was zoned commercial and we wouldn't be here. I feel that this will also hurt the home values in our small secluded area here next to Club Lake. Who wants to have a home next to a boat barn or convenience store and so forth? How many of you on this board would like that next to your house? I think not. You all need to think about the impact this will have on our neighborhood and not just worry about the tax revenue that the city stands to gain. I know it's all about the money, but sometimes you must think about the people you are going to affect. Not to mention the issues this is going to have on the bypass. Can you imagine trying to pull onto the bypass in the morning with traffic coming at 75 miles an hour? I know I must do it every day when I go to work. We will see how much that tax revenue is worth when someone gets killed on the bypass trying to pull out there with a boat and trailer or pulling out with a convenience store or whatever they decide to put there. The other issue is going to be the noise. Not that there is not enough noise for the bypass already, but now we're going to have people coming in and out at all hours of the night and day on top of the noise from the bypass. How would any of you on this board like that at your house? This is a bad idea and will create a lot of problems that don't exist now. I oppose to it, as I know the people on St. Francis Circle do, and I would think that the people in Peninsula Oaks would oppose it as well. It will increase traffic in their neighborhood. Thank you for your time. I have one from Andrew Kane at 2106 Lakeview Drive. I am adding some transparency to the proposed rezoning of St. Francis that is currently on the consent agenda. The application from R1 to B1 is vague and incomplete with a stated purpose of parking ? It's not best practice to change R1 zoning without a conceptual plan and idea for the proposed use. I have heard statements at P&Z and council meetings petitioner has no idea for the land use. His claim is to bring it back to business zoning before it was annexed. The reality is this parcel was never zoned business as the county does not have zoning. The lot did not have frontage on the bypass until a few months ago when a sliver of land was purchased from Certified Auto. This lot is surrounded on three sides with large estate homes. The petitioner has stated he will not cut down trees, but he is unable to promise that will happen when the property is sold. The adjacent landowner has built a structure which is similar to the structure on the boat lodge storage facility property he built 6 years ago and plans to purchase this lot for development. At a minimum, you owe the residents in this neighborhood a thorough and detailed review of potential development before turning R1 into B1. P&Z recommended 4-1 against this request. Honor that recommendation. You have 12. Go.
This one's from Timothy Templin, 205 St.
Francis Circle. He's opposed. I'm a resident of this neighborhood and I'm opposed to changing zoning of property at 102 St. Francis Circle. I feel that a commercial business and increased traffic would endanger our children, pets, etc. Also, increased traffic would deteriorate our already damaged roads in the general area. This is a residential area and should remain as such.
We have James McMahon, 310 St. Francis Circle. I believe it's opposition. Rezoning of the 3.445 acres at 102 St. Francis from R1 to B1 would increase neighborhood traffic and lead to more traffic accidents. Highway 35 bypass has had numerous serious accidents and fatalities along the intersects area from the Corpus Christi Street, Griffith Street to St. Francis Street. Traffic speed limit is 75 miles per hour past this property, which also happens to within the Rockport city limits. The proposed development would be for boat barns. Trucks trailing boats pulling onto Highway 35 before daylight and pulling back into the storage area would be an accident waiting to happen. Neighbors across the street and besides the boat storage would awaken the sounds of honking up and lights flashing into their bedroom windows. I believe that residential housing would be a better option for a Peninsula Oaks neighborhood. Then we have Suzanne Frells on 213 St. Francis Circle. Again, I believe. I'm in reference to agenda item 12, rezoning lot 2, block 1. We live less than 100 yards from the proposed rezoning area, and we are never asked our opinion nor notified by our city council member of this proposal. As one of the residents most impacted due to our proximity, our opinions should be carefully considered by the members of this council. I would like full disclosure of the reasoning behind the change and the purpose behind those proposing this change from its current status as residential. Why vote in favor? There is an obvious abundance of commercial property along the bypass currently. Why change the zoning ordinance from residential? Would council members allow the change adjacent to the current residents? Do those proposing this change for their financial gain have residents in this area? Please explain the urgency and direct need to change it with so much commercial property and boat and RV storage and RV sites already available along the bypass. Why must we rezone current residential property? Loss of property value, increased traffic, and obvious potential for the major vehicular accidents merging into traffic at 75 miles per hour is a reason to vote no for this change. City Council, listen to the residents impacted and those who are elected to represent. We will be watching and we will be voting according to each election. Then we have Donnie Frells on 213 St. Francis Circle. Regarding agenda item number 12, rezoning lot 2, block 1, our family residents for approximately 100 yards from the lot in question. At no time were notified our opinions requested regarding this proposed change in zoning. Residents were all purchased under the current zoning ordinance as residential. Changes of status now impacts us both financially and property value and residential safety. With the abundance of commercial property currently available along the 35 bypass, there is no reason to change the residential ordinance. The lack of turning lanes, traffic lights, and traffic merge lanes and a 75 mile per hour speed limit is already an inherent public safety hazard for a residential area. All residential traffic on the west side of the bypass near St. Francis Circle merging north of 35 must cross at Griffin. Additional commercial traffic, especially boats and RVs, will lead to increased congestion and add to an already extremely dangerous situation. Even heading south on the bypass from Griffith or St. Francis Circle into traffic at 80 miles per hour with no merge lanes is obvious poor design and needs to be addressed. St. Francis Circle roadway is already in extremely poor shape due to increased vehicle activity. Additional commercially zoned areas is neither warranted nor desired by the residents who will be impacted. Boat barns and commercially zoned areas already exist in the abundance on the bypass. There should be no valid reason for the changing of this existing ordinance in place.
I have no other forms asking to address this particular issue. Our building person is tied up. Are there questions from council?
Not yet.
That's okay. Ms. Dietrich? Yes, sir. Has anything changed as far as the ordinance goes from the time we had our last meeting?
No, sir.
Okay. Questions from council?
I just want a point of clarity.
We're required to notify everyone within a 200-foot radius,
Correct.
and that was done, and I know that was done.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And to clarify, the properties west of St. Francis Circle are not in city limits. And they get a letter to within 200 feet within the city limits. So they would not have gotten a letter.
I have a question, Carrie, real quick. So I'm reading a lot of these opposition, but I keep seeing a key word on here is boat barns. And from the actual residents that own the property, I have not heard anything about boat barns.
That is not what they have
So
said
I'm
they
not-
intend to do, no.
I guess my question is, have you seen any plans or anything of what they do propose to put
No,
on there?
ma'am, nothing's been submitted.
But if we rezone it, they can use it for anything that's acceptable in that zone.
Future land use map also shows it is commercial.
Also, if whatever the use is that the current owner or future owner may have for it, when a building proposal is brought in to the city, it will be reviewed and compared with all of our ordinances and regulations, trees, noise,
Drainage.
lights, and so forth.
Yes, sir.
And whatever the property is used for will have to be in compliance with city regulations. Is that not right?
That's correct, sir.
Whatever it is, or whoever develops it.
Yes, sir.
Now, is this done any different from any other rezone? I mean, I know we have rezoning in front of us quite often. Do you have other people that have to bring in all their plans before we rezone property?
Everyone does.
Everyone?
Not before rezoning? No, ma'am.
Before rezoning, yes. What is
No.
the normal practice on that?
The normal practice is they file a request for rezone, they state why they want to rezone, and they can present a conceptual plan, but most don't. They state why they want to rezone, and then it comes to P&Z and to you.
Okay.
Anything else?
Mayor,
Brad?
can you have Ms. Dietrich speak this to why P&Z, the 4-1 vote, what their thought process was on P&Z?
I can ask, Ms. Kim is here. Ms. Kim Hesley with the P&Z is here.
Kim Hesley, Planning and Zoning Commission. We recommended denial because we felt like even though, because this is B1 and there's a long list of approved uses under B1, that going forward, regardless of what the immediately contemplated plans were, that things could change, property can get sold down the road, being that it is surrounded by residential, that this was probably one of the few exceptions to that future land use map along the bypass, where being in a residential area, that general B1 was not appropriate for this particular piece of property. Thanks.
Anything else?
Certified Auto is next to this property, correct?
That's correct.
And that's still zoned R1?
It is. They were grandfathered because they were there when they were annexed.
But
So they're considered
if they
legal.
were to sell, it would be a B1.
The use, yes. If they want to make any modifications or extend the use to the building, they would have to come and rezone. Because they're considered legal non-conforming, and you can't modify a legal non-conforming use.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, other questions? If not, do I have a motion?
I'm gonna make a motion. I would like to make a motion, if I can, I wanna make sure I make this correctly. I would like to postpone this item until I get more information on what's gonna happen. I would like to table this until I get more information on what is gonna be put on that land, just to make the.
Postpone?
Postpone. I would like to make a motion to postpone until I get more information on what they would like to do on the property.
I can second that motion.
Have a motion and a second to postpone to a further date. Any further question? If not, I'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Item number 13. I have two forms. Let me see. Got three. Okay, first one, let me read the item. I'm going to forget to do that again. Item number 13, deliberate and act on second final reading of ordinance amending Article 4 of the City of Rockport zoning ordinance number 1027 by changing the zoning of land located at 1806 Highway 35 North, also known as Villa del Palmas, Unit A, B, C, and D, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, to R6 Hotel Motel District, to allow the use of short-term rentals currently zoned R5, second multifamily dwelling district, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability and providing an effective date. I have got a form from Mr. Terry Shannon of 1905 Cochran Lane. If I call your name and you're here and want to talk, let us know. If not, it'll be read. I'm against the rezoning of this property. Too much traffic and noise already. Thank you. From Mary Christine Ritter of 1901 Cochran Lane. I'm opposed to the rezoning of the Villa del Palmas property. Little Bay Shores is a walking community, and the increased traffic and parking will make walking dangerous. Also, there is not enough parking for all the vehicles that would come from short-term rentals. Frankly, I don't want to fight to be able to park on my property or to back out of my driveway. Short-term rentals bring more than 2-car limit that is required for each unit. If a place sleeps 8, then generally you can count on 4 cars, sometimes more. There simply is not enough room at the Villa del Palmas property for that many vehicles, especially if some bring boats. How do I know this? I witnessed it in Port Aransas and warned the City of Rockport Council under Pat Rios about the potential for this problem. Also, I believe the Villa del Palmas property will make exceptional single-family housing. It is located near schools and shopping, best which is Christine Ritter. And finally, from Melissa Fox at 1910 Cochran Lane. Deliberate and act on second final reading of ordinance amending Article 4 for the City of Rockport zoning ordinance number 1027. It is an exact quote of what I just read a second ago. And nothing else on it. Anyone else have one for item 13? Has anything changed that we know of? Okay. Is anyone here from the project? Did you want to speak to your project again? All right. If no one does, do I have any questions from the council? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve agenda item 13 as written.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Call for vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 2 and Ward 3.
Ward 3, no.
Ward 4.
No.
We have a tie vote. It does not pass. It will be called back for another meeting. All right. Item number 16, I have two,
It dies, it doesn't come back.
okay,
Guys,
okay. But it will be back on an agenda for future meeting. It won't? It will not. Excuse me. Okay. Item number 16, item 16 here.
wait. Item number 15 first.
Yeah, we did. Yes, regarding Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority grant. I'm sorry? What? Okay. Okay. I'm skipping a public hearing. We'll conduct a public hearing, consider a request to revert back to original planned unit development as described, a PUD as described in ordinance number 1385 for property located at 1724 FM 3036, also known as LaSalle Estates, City of Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, which is planned unit development, PUD, single-use overlay district containing 80 attached single-family dwelling townhouses along with such features and amenities, currently zoned PUD with R5 use second multi-family dwelling district. We are in a public hearing. It is 7:07 p.m. Yes, sir.
LaSalle unit. I apologize because we had this rezoned about 5 years ago for a potential buyer. It looked great on paper, but it didn't work out. So we've been proceeding as a single family development anyway, and would like to continue to proceed that way. Have no intention of building any duplexes or apartments or anything.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. All right, we have questions. We'll close the public hearing. It is 7:08. Regular agenda, item number 16. Here, a presentation regarding Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority grant, MAG, being used to fund a program with Flock Safety, Inc. for 6 fixed pole-mounted automatic license plate cameras in and around the city. Chief. Do you have? Yes. What? Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I skipped you. I've got a lot of notes on my agenda thing up here, and I'm looking down, reading those, and not looking where I am. So y'all excuse me for a second. We've got a couple of comments here. Go ahead.
This is from Patrick Kane at 1123 East Cedar Street. He is opposed. I find it interesting this was brought to City Council for action in December and met considerable resistance, yet it appears today as information only. I also find it interesting today's agenda packet includes a petition accepted by the city secretary despite being clearly
invalid both in format and by being signed by people outside Rockport. To put it simply, this petition is not an accurate survey of residents' desires whether Rockport should employ license plate readers. In December, you were told there wasn't any cost to the city for this system. However, this agency packet shows a $4,000 match is required this year, and it isn't clear who is funding $15,000 for the second year, given the grant is for a maximum of 20. In December, you were told a stop could not be made without confirming through dispatch whether it is the right vehicle. This is not true. Per the 2020 directive, officer discretion determines whether circumstances allow confirmation. In December, you were told the police department was already using license plate readers and that policies were in place. In January, I did a public information request for records showing how the system was being used and whether its use had led to any arrest, and was told we have no documents responsive. Please keep in mind these records were mandated in the 2022 directive, so how is it possible for the records to not exist? One reason would be if the police department doesn't believe it is accountable to either city council or the public. In fact, the policy they provide in today's agenda packet clearly shows that to be the case, as they stripped away the limited oversight provisions provided in the 2022 directive. It is a bad policy, and city council should require an immediate rewrite to ensure appropriate oversight and protection of our civil liberties. I have provided my council representative the language that has been recommended by other government entities, and it cuts off. Christy Rutledge. 1124 Dana Drive, I think. I am opposed to the use of LPRs in Rockport, and I am asking City Council to bar the use of automatic license plate readers by Rockport Police for the following reasons. 1, Chief Stevens was not transparent with the public or City Council when asked on December 13th, 2022 about the TxDOT grant. The grant was applied for and awarded on June 9th, 2022 with a start date of June 14, 2022. But Rockport City Council did not authorize the mayor to apply for the grant until June 28th of 2022. Therefore, pre-authorization for the application was not given by council is the resolution required by TxDOT to accept the ballot. On December 13th, 2022, the police chief told council that policies and protocols were already in place for use of mobile LPRs, but when asked for records and logs required by our PD's January 31st, 2022 LPR directives, the city responded that no documents were responsive. If it was too much trouble to keep records according to the directive with the mobile LPRs, how can citizens of Rockport trust Rockport PD with fixed LPRs? The police chief told City Council on December 13th, 2022, he did not think the TxDOT grant rose to the threshold of needing to bring it to council, but clearly public outrage proved differently. The charade of the after-the-fact petition that is in today's agenda packet should give you pause and make you wonder why the grant for ALPRs has been politicized. Current policy in the agenda packet does not protect civil rights of citizens. Anyone can be tracked for any reason, and no records will be available to the public. City Council should require that protocols and policies for use with ALPRs in Rockport be held to the most restrictive and highest standards. Please reference the state of Minnesota statutes governing use of ALPRs and data practices for higher standards of data practices, and she provides a link. ALPRs should be restricted to only those with warrants. Detailed logs of ALPR usage should be maintained, audited independently, and be available for the public to view. Instead, the new policies in today's agenda prohibit public access and allow surveillance of anyone without cause. How can the public trust if we can't verify the logs? Given the manner in which the grant was acquired without prior authorization and the deletion of any small protections for citizens, in the January 2022 LPR directives, City Council should act to rescind authorization for the TxDOT grant, do not authorize a contract, MOU, or resolution for flag systems.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Come right ahead.
Hi, I'm Jacob. I want to talk about Flock Safety Incorporated. I am highly concerned about them. This is a company. We are just coming out of COVID lockdowns. This have been used for COVID lockdowns. We've seen other people use this. We've seen other abuse. But I specifically want to talk about the company. On the company's website, they state that they will not share any information with anyone outside of their company. That sounds really good, but upon further digging, I have found out they have received $380 million, and I thought I'll list the partners who gave them that money. We have Motec Capital, video and AI technology. We have Matrix partnered, which is heavily involved in India and China, giving this company money. With all this hoo-ha about TikTok selling information to Chinese entities, right now we are considering giving flock safety license plate readers when they have a Chinese backer. We have Spark Capital. I couldn't find anything on them. They're too broad. We have Bedrock Capital, which is partnered with OpenAI, that chat robot everyone talking about. We have Initialized Capital, which deals with blockchain and data collection and sharing. We have Tiger Global Management, which actually lost $2 billion last week. So they're looking for some new income. I'm afraid that they're gonna sell information, especially since they all partnered with Flock Safety. We have 776 Capital, which is blockchain and data collection. And finally, I cannot pronounce the last one. I have no idea. It's Horowitz, but it's a blockchain and data collection service. And I'm just highly suspicious of this. We say we're not gonna share information, we're buying something from a company that has clear ties to this. Thank you.
Could you give us your name and address, please, sir? I didn't hear it if you gave it, I'm sorry.
I'm Jacob Morgan. I live at Navigation Circle. I'm at one of the marinas.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Council, we appreciate all the time y'all spend helping run this community. Thank you, and you're doing a great job. My name is Jim Mixon, and I want to talk about the flock system. I want to begin with the January meeting where you had a few people that were opposed to flock, and I read that in the pilot, and I was wondering, this must be like the Austin trick where they have lights or cameras to catch everybody running the stop signs and everything, and then I investigated into it. And I got to talking, and I ran into the police chief one day, and I said, "What's all this about?" And he told me, well, it wasn't anything like what Austin is. It's license plate readers. So I got involved. I got into the flock system. In fact, they even called me up and asked me if I wanted to buy some cameras because I got in there so often. And I found out what a worthwhile program it is. I checked in with Round Rock, their police department website. Everybody loves it up there. They think it's a great idea, and I think they've had it now since last June, and this June they're going to reevaluate and probably buy some more cameras. Houston, City of Houston is looking at buying 400 of these cameras pretty soon. I want to just say something too as well. When I heard some comments that the chief of police was pressing people to sign a petition. If anybody wants to know, I'm the one that drew up the petition, and I'm going to tell you what I had in it. I have 210 signatures from friends and neighbors. I didn't push anybody on it. This is how I started the petition. I put down what Flock does. Flock gets license plate recognition. Flock gathers objective evidence and facts about vehicles, not people. Flock alert law enforcement of wanted vehicles. Flock is used for Amber Alerts. Flock is used to solve many other crimes. Flock adheres to all state laws. Flock is not used for traffic management. Flock data is deleted every month, every 30 days. One other thing I want to say. You know, the chief of police wants the Flock machines, I believe. The sheriff already has the Flock cameras. The Highway Patrol has Flock cameras out on our major highways. And HOAs, homeowner associations, I know there's at least one in the city of Rockport. They have a camera across the bridge going into Key Allegro. I can't imagine anybody being opposed to this. If a house is broken into at Key Allegro at a certain time, a vehicle drives in there before that happens and drives out right after the alarm goes off, I think you probably have a pretty good idea who it could be, at least if there's only a couple of vehicles. And I'm going to try to get an HOA, our HOA, to have 3 flock cameras, even if we have to volunteer some money to do it. That way we would know who comes in. Remember, before Harvey, we used to have break-ins every once in a while. Well, this will damn sure stop some of that. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Nixon.
Oh, I support it, and so do the other 211 people.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else, Chief? Okay, go ahead.
No. Mayor and Council, those will be for you all later on. One council member had asked questions, and I produced those earlier and gave a copy to the city manager. You can get those, and these are available for the public's consumption as well. They're public documents. And I want to start out with, and Flock is online to give a presentation, but I want to clear up one thing right away, because there's been some questions and some mistaken or misinformation. I think merely from I just think it's someone got wrong information in their own research about the application process and some dates and times that are out there. So I want to clear that up so there's no question about the process of the grant. We were notified of the grant on March 2nd, not in June. We were notified about this grant on March the 2nd, and that's in this documentation. The deadline to apply for it was on May 27th, and in those documents, a resolution from you, the council, would be due on or before the 90th day after the grant award was announced, not prior to the application itself. We applied. And on behalf of the mayor is how that's done. The mayor of the town, sometimes it's the city manager, and sometimes it's me, depends on whatever grant it is referred to as authorized official. In this case, it's the mayor. And the mayor, and at that time, actually, remember this is May, it was Patrick Rios. So this grant was originally, and I want to be clear because I don't want anybody to think that I've not been honest. Originally, this grant was applied for under Patrick Rios, and it was changed to Timothy J. Rowe. So the original paperwork shows that Patrick Rios applied for it. Now that was changed, and the current paperwork we have shows that Mayor Timothy J. Rowe applied for it. Now we did that on your behalf because you're the authorized official. We did that on May 13th. We were notified via email of the award on June 9th. And we were advised it would be several weeks before, and there's a copy in the packet, and you all have copies of what's called the statement of award would be sent. We wouldn't get it. You would get it, Mayor, because you're the authorized official. Again, that email was on June the 9th, and that would show up later on. So we came to council on June 28th to get that resolution. Most all of our grants require a resolution before operating, but not before applying. For whatever reason in that verbiage, it's been my entire career. I've been doing grants since the mid to late 2000s. They read a resolution to apply for and accept, or to apply for and operate. I don't know why that is. That's just the way it's always been done. Now, once we got that resolution, we uploaded it to the grant website on July the 11th. At some point, and I don't know when exactly, but we did receive the statement of the MVCPA Auxiliary Grant Award and Grantee Acceptance Notice, and that is a document that's been all over this. You got that, and then we got it. I don't know exactly when, but Mayor, you got that. You signed it on August the 27th, and we uploaded that document to the grant website on August the 29th. That is the timeline that is correct and accurate, and all of this documentation that I printed off of the grant's website today and brought. It's here for the public's consumption, and again, you'll have copies of that. In response to Councilman Brundrett, a question that he had, I provided those documents to the city manager and to Councilman Brundrett. That's the real timeline, the one that's been promulgated on social media and discussed is not correct. This is the correct timeline. We brought this to council December 13th because Flock Safety said they needed a resolution. There was some confusion as to whether the previous resolution was adequate. Nonetheless, not to get into the weeds on that, we believed that we needed to come and get a new resolution from the council. And that's whenever it was tabled to be brought back sometime in February. For a sundry of reasons, it's been pushed off until now, here today. What we've realized is the original resolution that came from the June 28th council meeting is adequate and suffices for Flock Safety. All of the things are in place, and so that's why it's a no action, to answer the question that's come up, that's why it's a no action item. But again, to be transparent, to make sure that we are being transparent, this program actually will have logs. The public can log on and see what Flock Safety is doing. I think in a minute in the presentation that Hector Salamanca is going to give from Flock Safety, he'll show or he'll discuss that the public can log on to a public portal, and you'll be able to see, the public can see what we're doing with with Flock Safety's camera systems. So again, we're bringing it back for this presentation and for this discussion, and to be able to answer any questions that you, the council, have for me, and to provide some direction since there has been such controversy over this situation. So with that, Bob, I think that Hector is ready for their presentation.
Good evening to the council. Thank you, Chief, for that introduction. My name is Hector Soliman Valdez. I am a community affairs manager with Flock Safety. Wanted to start off today by talking a little bit about Flock. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and go over a presentation. It is disabled at the moment, if the host can just allow me to share.
We're having a sound issue right now. Can you give us just a second?
No problem.
Can you speak so we can see if they can hear you in the back?
Yes, testing 1, 2, 3. 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 Can you all hear me?
You hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, if you had a question for us, ask us again and we'll try to answer it for you.
Oh, no worries. I was asking if I could share my screen, and it is allowed now. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I was introducing myself. Could you all hear me earlier? My name is Hector Soliman Valdez. I am a community affairs manager with Flock Safety. I wanted to start off our presentation today by giving you a little bit of context on Flock Safety, how our technology works, how we're helping do so in an ethical and transparent way, as well as how we're actually solving crime in Texas and nationwide. So with that being said, I wanted us to start off by talking about Flock. As I mentioned, we are a Georgia-based company. Our mission is to eliminate crime for the whole community. We were founded when our CEO and his neighbors were victims of crimes. They were in an inner city neighborhood where there were multiple burglaries happening, car break-ins, and just like many of you, they had Ring cameras, different video footage, and being that was the first time that they were experiencing these crimes, they reported the crimes to the police, gave them the video, but unfortunately, that wasn't enough to solve the crime. What law enforcement let our CEO know is like, hey, we need a license plate to solve this, or to actually follow up and have a lead to solve this crime. So he started doing some research. He founded several different companies before and is a problem solver, and noticed that ALPR has been around for 30, almost 40 years at this point, but it's extremely expensive Typically, police departments have to purchase a camera that's tens of thousands of dollars. It goes obsolete within a year or so. And then it's also not necessarily created in an ethical way. So companies or legacy providers would share information or the data to tow truck companies, etc. He wanted to build something that was affordable for his neighborhood, so he looked at a software as a service type of model. So with us, you're paying an annual fee for the cameras. We install them, maintain them, and also provide unlimited seats to our software for your police department to solve crime. We've also will never sell the data. It belongs to your department. So that's really where we got started in order to help solve crime. And really because we saw that there was limited resources out there. We needed police departments need a force multiplier, right? They can't be everywhere at the same time, and they need to receive that objective information. And then also that there needs to be ways for the community to engage and partner up with law enforcement as well. So how does the technology itself work? Top right-hand corner, you're seeing what actual footage is. It is not video footage. It is a still image, similar to what you see here. It is the back of a vehicle. It is from fixed locations, and there is no people, as you can see in this image. There's no facial recognition, and there's no traffic enforcement. Your police department can search by different filters, such as make and color. And it's also important to dive in a little deeper into what the technology is not. So again, as I mentioned earlier, not tied to personal identifiable information, which means we actually don't provide your department with the ability to know who's in a vehicle. We don't say John Smith is in that vehicle. What we do let your department know is say that is a vehicle that is on a wanted list for being stolen or other felony warrants, or it maybe matches a description of something that they're looking for. With Flock, our standard retention is 30 days. That's an important number because it gives your police department enough time to respond to crimes which many times are not reported right away, or many times folks are just on vacation. They need to be able to go in, search the system, and then find some leads. But it's also not long-term retention of data. At that 30 days, the data is hard deleted and is no longer retrievable. There's three different aspects of this technology. So it's really important for us to understand that your police department, their patrol officers in their vehicles, in their computers will receive real-time alerts within 20 seconds, right? Letting them know that there is a wanted vehicle entering their community. So they'll be able to, investigate further. It's important to note that 7 out of 10 crimes, there is a vehicle involved. It's also investigative, right? Your chief kind of talked a little bit about the process that what you all are looking for this technology for, and I know that this has been in discussion for a while, and how this will help solve crime. Any given month, you may have a particular amount of burglaries, and what we see is that amount, let's say there's 10 different burglaries, that doesn't equate to the same amount of people performing those crimes, right? And so if you're able to stop those folks in the first attempt, you're able to reduce those crimes. So therefore, as clearance rates increase, crime rates decrease. This also serves as a deterrent. Rockport will join other Texas cities and other cities across the country in adding this technology in their portfolio of crime-solving tools, so that and folks that are committing crimes will know that, so they will keep away. So how does Flock mitigate for risk? As I mentioned earlier, we will never sell that footage. It is owned by your department. Only your department can share the footage within the system for legal law enforcement purposes. We're taking out the human bias out of crime solving, right? So we're letting your police department know, hey, this is a wanted vehicle. That is something that is objectively illegal. It's a stolen car, for example, versus them running random plates. All of the data is stored in AWS Cloud. It's end-to-end encrypted. Really important to note, all of our servers are completely within the United States. And these are the same type of servers used by the FBI and CIA. Highest level encryption, but also, as I mentioned, there's no personal information in this system. So it is images of the back of a vehicle and the metadata associated with that vehicle. Also, because there's no personal identifiable information, this can't be used for punitive measures such as red light cameras or vehicle registrations. Again, this is really for solving crime. And I know that the chief mentioned our transparency portal. This is something that is unique to Flock. What this will allow any Rockport resident to do is go on a web page that we will create for your department. They can put it on your city website, different social media accounts, so that any resident in real time can see, well, what is the policy? What is my department using this for? How many times have they searched in the past month? And, you know, how many hot list alerts are they receiving? So really having that real time information. And then, as I mentioned, we are located in many jurisdictions over in Texas. That includes the Dallas metro area, cities such as Louisville, the Colony that just signed on, Dallas, Texas, Houston, all of your major metro areas, as well as many other cities. I believe we're around 200 different cities in Texas as we speak. And then I wanted to start off, with this story. As you could probably imagine, it is a no-brainer that this technology can be used to solve crime. Vehicle thefts. It also can be used to solve different kind of crimes, such as this one in Louisville, where this couple actually had their wedding ring and thousands of dollars of cash in their cart when somebody stole the cart from them. You know, she had left the purse there for a second. They stole that cart, but police were able to track down that thief and within hours have a happy ending here and return that to the couple before that thief was able to spend the money or perhaps even pawn that wedding ring, and they were able to go to their wedding the next day. I wanted to also highlight this story out of San Bruno, California. It's a smash and grab case. You may have actually seen this because it made national headlines. They tried to rob the store, but there was armed security there, so he was able to fend off that store. What the police department believed, however, was that they would return and escalate their level of violence, and that's exactly what happened. But the San Bruno PD was ready. They put a custom hot list alert on that vehicle, and as soon as they entered that shopping center, they were able to stop them from entering that plaza, escalating their level of violence and committing the crime altogether. Therefore, this having a preventative aspect. To date, we've also helped solve over 100 missing and endangered children and elderly individual cases. So Amber Alerts and Silver Alerts, as many folks know them. I really want to end with this story here out of Chamblee, Georgia, because it's a stranger on stranger abduction. This is really rare. This mother that you see here was pushing her child in his stroller when two masked and armed individuals fought her. She fought valiantly, tried to take the gun away from them, but they prevailed. They took her child. She had no idea who these people were. She actually didn't see the license plate. As I mentioned earlier, with our technology, we have what is called the vehicle fingerprint. So giving them, the police department, the description of that vehicle, they were able to go in to the system, search for that vehicle, put out an Amber Alert, found the vehicle in Alabama, so one state over, all within 6 hours, and made a felony stop and arrest and returned that child to his mother. These folks intended to raise a child as their own. Luckily, that did not happen. And this child was returned to their mother and will never remember that day, which is great. Those folks are behind bars. So really important to note just the power of being part of this network. We're in over 1,400 police departments right now and work, as I said, with the private sector, HOAs and businesses as well to make sure that communities are protected. Here's that list. It got flipped over. Just a small sampling of some of the cities in Texas. And then with that, I did a little bit of talking at you all. Would love to answer any questions that you may have.
Council? Chief?
I don't want to, just like Hector said, I don't want to talk at you. I do want to clear up a little bit about the policy and whether or not the records issues and things like that. I want to give you another quick timeline, and then I just want to answer any questions that you may have. Well, let me make this salient point. There has been no Rockport police officer to date, and I checked today, and let me make sure I'm correct, still today, okay? There's been no Rockport police officer make a stop of a motor vehicle based upon an automated license plate reader hit, ever. We haven't made a stop. That's why when open records request was filed and asked for the records of those, there's nothing responsive. We've not made a stop based on an ALPR hit. There's no logs of that because up until March, just a few weeks ago, where there'd been no operational deployment of any ALPR equipment other than one camera that was deployed only testing. And the only information being brought from that was going directly to Captain Anderson because that camera, for only about a month, was operational reading license plates. And it failed almost immediately, about a month in. And one of the big things is why flock? And I'm going to give you three reasons of why flock. First is just why ALPRs. One is it's a force multiplier. I'd like to have 10 more officers, maybe 15. That's unrealistic. We can't afford that because we can't be everywhere all the time. I'm a believer in leveraging technology and gaining those benefits while coping with the inherent issues it brings. And I understand some of the concerns, some of the issues that the public brings up. I understand privacy rights. I get those. So how do we leverage technology while coping with the inherent issues it brings? That's one of the big whys, is it's a force multiplier, right? Secondly, one of our biggest crimes is vehicle burglaries. We have rashes of vehicle burglaries in a lot of our neighborhoods. Many of those are HOAs, and this technology, one of them already has it, another one is looking at it. Well, a lot of our neighborhoods don't have HOAs, and they're not going to get the benefit of this technology. And that being one of our largest crimes, that's where the police department comes in and says, how do I get that technology and help all of the Rockport citizens, not just those that are living in HOA neighborhoods, to help catch people that break into vehicles and hopefully prevent, when I know that vehicle burglars have struck here, how do I catch them before they strike another neighborhood, 2 or 3 more, when I can finally catch up to them? We don't have a lot of violent crime in Rockport, Texas. We do have a little, but we don't have a lot. What we do have, though, are violent criminals that, for whatever reason, come here and hide out. I've given you examples of Houston homicide coming and asking for our help, and we found those homicide suspects hiding in Rockport. San Antonio homicide came here. We didn't find those, but we know they were here. ALPRs would have helped in both of those situations. Aryan Brotherhood shootout occurred in, I believe it was Missouri. The shooters came here and hid out. I don't know why. I guess they like the greatest beach town city in Texas. I guess I can only assume. Those are my 2 big whys on ALPRs. The why on flock safety is directly related to this policy issue. And that very quick, I'll be brief about that timeline, is retired Commander Jerry Long, this predates me shortly before I got here. He bought 2 cameras, static pole-mounted cameras, one of which had license plate reader technology, but it was never activated, didn't have the software in it. And they used that camera for other things. They used it since I'd been here. That directive that you've all seen, the memorandum, it's not a policy, it's a memorandum, the subject line of which reads license plate reader directive. At that point, Lieutenant Anderson, he wasn't promoted yet, he was already slated to take Jerry Long's place over CID. Lieutenant Anderson wrote that memo to me because he saw the value in license plate readers, as did I, and he said, this camera has that capability. I want to get the software, I want to make it work, but I want to test it because I don't know a lot about it yet. And that was in January of 2022. That's the date on that memorandum. Again, not a policy, it's a memorandum. And in order to begin that process, we needed some kind of policy by DPS standards to be able to even start this process. He found that, or maybe we found that, I believe it may have been him, I don't remember, but on the International Association of Chiefs of Police website, and their policy, they've got a policy section. Boilerplate, brought it down verbatim, wrote that memo to me so we had something in place as a mere placeholder. None of those boilerplate policies are meant to be perfect for your agency to hold on to forever. And that was only for him to get started with that 1 camera. And he deployed that camera, and I'll tell you where, near Business 35 in Market Street. Had it hung on a pole. It was not operational for LPR. It did not read license plates. He put it up in late spring or early summer of 2022. The company that Jerry Long had bought it from was finally able to get the software. Correct me now, Captain Anderson, if I get off base here. Finally got it operational for LPRs in September, and it was, again, it was in test mode. I'll say operational. Let me make sure I'm clear on this. He got the LPR system operational to test it. It was never deployed operational. Troops were not receiving information. Only Captain Anderson was. The only tag he ever put in it, was his city vehicle's license plate. So he could drive through it and see if it worked. And that's it. It's the only thing it ever did. And in October 11th, maybe, something like that, early October, the hard drive in it crashed. Every record, everything it's done, crashed. It's dead. IT couldn't bring it back. The company couldn't bring it back. There's no records available from that. That's why my response in the open records request is nothing. We got nothing. There's no responsive records. There's never been a stop made on that. That camera is sitting on the floor in Captain Anderson's office. They finally got a new hard drive put into it, and we're still waiting on the company to make it operational. So my third why flock? Because I don't want to buy or own any more cameras, because that high-dollar camera still was bought with budget money before I got here, so say 2018, sometime in there. It's a lot of money. Never been used sitting on the floor in Captain Anderson. I don't want to own any more cameras. This is a good budget decision to rent these cameras, lease these cameras from Flock Safety. All my colleagues across the state, I go to chiefs conferences, I talk to them and I ask them, what are you doing for LPRs? What's your choice? How are you doing that? All of them say, don't buy them. Leasing them's better. Look at this company, that company. I've reviewed these, I've looked at those. Flock Safety is the one that I think is the best way to go for our solution. So with that's the timeline on that policy. Once we knew that the cameras are coming in for the grant vehicles, the mobile cameras, I began writing our policy, not this boilerplate memo that we got from a website, a policy section of the IACP's website. I wrote a Rockport Police Department policy. I want to push back on that. I'm a recognized policy expert. I testify about policies in state district court. I'm recognized in federal court. The Texas Police Chiefs Association sends me to other agencies to evaluate their policies. Mary, you're familiar with the Texas Police Chiefs Best Practices agencies. We are one of those. We're a recognized, we're accredited agency. Our policies are tight. I've written this policy. It is tight, and I'm happy to discuss it with any citizen, with any of you, with the city manager, with our city attorneys, to go over this policy and show and demonstrate that it is a tight policy where we will hold our folks accountable. Most importantly, it'll stand the muster, the constitutional muster, and any stop, no matter what, whether it's an LPR-based stop, any stop that a patrol officer makes must be based on reasonable suspicion or probable cause, period. It triggers Fourth Amendment issues. So with that, what questions can I answer for any of you?
I mean, I don't know if you have the answer to the question, but my concern is always going to be just where the data goes. And I understand it says 30 days and it goes into a cloud, but just having that concern, it just sits in the back of my head. Like, where are these after 30 days, how do we know it's gone? How do we know it's not sitting there? How do we know?
In that policy, Captain Anderson audits it. I believe it says every 6 months, 2 times a year. I audit it once a year. Okay. We look for a couple things. One, and Flock audits it as well. Hector can answer questions about that. We make sure that the retention periods are working, but I also look for if anyone is using it inappropriate. That's what those audits are for, to make sure that we're using it as we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and Councilwoman, to your question,
I'm sorry, Hector may answer your question again. I'm sorry.
So, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Councilwoman, the data is stored for 30 days, as I mentioned in the presentation. When an image is captured, it has what's called a time to live, which marks it basically to be hard deleted at 30 days. So that at that point it is deleted. I believe does that answer your question or concern?
I got the answer from you through the audit. My other question is that available for public or us to know the audit read, what you guys found on those audits?
I need to sure that it is releasable. I wouldn't oppose, I'd have to do that case by case, but I certainly wouldn't oppose someone looking at an audit to make sure that we're doing that correctly. I'll offer this for you. We have retention dates on our body-worn cameras for video on the in-car cameras. And I'm gonna tell you, that collects so much more data, video, everything than these do. We go inside people's homes. We see people at their most vulnerable, and it's all on body-worn cameras. And so we have a ton of stuff, and our retention dates for that is actually 180 days. And the reason for that is in case someone complains, files a complaint, files a suit, whatever it is, we want to store that data for as long as possible. Now, if it relates to a crime or something, we mark that as evidence, and it's basically held for the statute of limitations. If it's not, we mark it as, where we don't mark it for anything, and at 180 days, it rolls off the system. Now, there's times where we realized at one point, not long after I had come on, that stuff was not rolling off, and working with IT, I said, hey, we got a retention date. It's in our policy. We need to make sure that's doing. And the question was said, are we sure we want to get it? Hey, it's a retention date. It's a hard date. If it's 182 days and somebody wants that, well, they should have saved it for evidence, which you have to have a reason to say, why is this evidence and why is it not? So we are, and just to make sure that you understand how serious I am about that, we want to make sure, and it's a live or die date. I think that's what Hector's kind of saying, that if you look for a video or you look for something in this at day 185, or in this case, day 95, and it's not there, it's not there. You either needed to hold it for evidence, or you should have looked 10 days ago. It's a hard date, and it drops off the system, and it's gone.
Correct. There's nothing that the department actually needs to do as far as retention when it comes to our system, because every single image has that time to live date that will hard delete it at 30 days.
Other questions? Thank you very much, Chief. It is 7:52. We're going to take 10-minute recess. We'll be back at 5 minutes after 8. Great.
Just, if I may ask, is there still more discussion on this item?
I don't believe so, Hector. I believe we're finished with that item.
Okay, perfect. There was no vote.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
It is 8:04, we're back in session. Next official zoning map is stipulated under Article 4.1 of the City of Rockport zoning ordinance number 1027 by changing the zoning of land from planned unit development, PUD, with R5 second multifamily dwelling district use for property located at 1724 FM 3036, also known as LaSalle PUD Single Use Overlay District, containing 80 attached single-family dwelling townhouses along with such features and amenities, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability and providing an effective date. Who?
As explained in your packet, LaSalle was originally approved for a PUD with the single-family homes, townhomes. After the storm, they came back and I guess there was a lot of damage to them, and rather than go back with the townhomes, they had it changed to R5 PUD to be able to repair those and maybe create some workforce housing. Well, that didn't materialize, and they just continued building townhomes, which is fine, except that that's not what the PUD was for now. So they just want to go back to the original PUD to be in compliance as they're building townhomes. And I believe I have 2 permits on hold until this is approved.
Okay. We have questions regarding this issue.
I move to approve item 17 as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any further question or debate? If not, I call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
I'm abstaining due to conflict of interest.
Mayor, aye. Vote is 3-0 with 1 abstention. Item number 18, deliberate and act on request of utility service agreement by and between the City of Rockport, Texas, a home rule municipality, the city, and Rockport Landing GP LLC, a Texas domestic limited liability company developer, regarding the city's provision of water, wastewater, and natural gas service and any associated facilities for the provision of said utilities on the land owned by the developer. Ms. Dietrich.
This is a development agreement with Mr. Moreland in Rockport Landing to provide utilities to his project that will be just north of 188. I believe there is an exhibit in your packet of what that is. And this is, what they want to do is they want to reserve LUEs in that lift station and in that line. And to do so, they'll pay $500 of the pro rata, which is a total of $27.39 per LUE. They'll pay $500 per LUE that they want to reserve. And that's good for, Gene, remind me, that's good for 5 years. Now, at the end of 5 years, if they have not used them, they have not developed, it's gone, and they don't get their money back. So, and they have agreed to voluntary annexation, if and when the city limits becomes adjacent to their property.
Okay.
And there is no time limit on that.
Okay. Any questions?
So all they're doing is just reserving the space on the wastewater system?
Yes,
That's all they're doing?
correct.
Got it.
Capacity's getting limited, so we needed some system.
Yeah.
Correct.
Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve agenda item 18 as written.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further question or debate? If not, I'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Abstain due to potential conflict.
Okay, 1 abstention. Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. Item number 19, Deliberate and act on a request for utility services agreement by and between the city of Rockport, Texas, a home rule municipality, the city, and Milo Holdings LLC, a Texas domestic limited liability company developer regarding the city's provision of water, wastewater, natural gas services, and any associated facilities for provision of said utilities on the land owned by the developer. Ms. Dietrich.
Again, this is the same agreement with Milo Holdings, is a manager, and it's to reserve LUEs for the subdivision known as La Buena Vida 2. And it's already platted, and it's 72 LUEs. Again, $500 per LUE, good for 5 years. If they do not develop, then it's gone and they don't get their money back. And they have agreed to voluntary annexation.
All right. Questions? Call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve agenda item number 19 as read.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any further question or debate? Not call for vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Abstain due to potential conflict.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. We have 3-0 vote with 1 abstention. Item number 20. Deliberate and act on supplemental request for hotel occupancy tax funds from airplanes and coffee for warbirds over South Texas to be held at the Aransas County Airport on May 27th and 28th, 2023.
Mayor and council, Mr. Stewart approached me a couple of weeks ago about using some hotel motel tax for an event that a window opened up for us to have. It's a really good event. I wanted him to have his opportunity to promote his event, and he's asking for $10,000 of hotel motel tax. My recommendation on this is going to be disapproval, and it's not because I don't think the event is good, but our hotel motel collections are only at about 20%. We're 50% through the year. I know we'll get an influx through the summer, but I don't want to spend any more money when we don't have excess collected right now. Additionally, waiting until the standard application process will give him the opportunity to compete with everybody else, as well as provide statistics as to what the event does this year. But I did want to give him the opportunity to promote his event and tell us what he's trying to do, and then I have a feeling you'll see him back during the budget cycle.
Cody?
Mayor, council, thank you for your time. I'll try to be brief. I submitted a presentation. I didn't know if it got loaded or not. It's in the agenda. Oh, perfect. So my name's Cody Stewart. I'm an advocate for the airport and education here in Aransas County in the aviation sector. A little bit about me. I grew up here as a kid. Was doing I remember going to the air shows on 4th of July that Brian Brock used to put on. I don't know if some of y'all remember that or not, but that's where I got involved in aviation years ago. Back in 2020, we started having little fly-ins, and they have grown exponentially over the last 3 years. The biggest one being this last December, the Coastal Bend holiday fly-in. Please go down to the executive summary. So what we're trying to do with this event is, one, it's Memorial Day. And it's really important that we remember what Memorial Day stands for with the men and women that paid the ultimate sacrifice, especially from the Coastal Bend. A lot of people may not know or have forgotten that the Coastal Bend was a huge contributor to the war effort in World War II. The biggest one being the air base in Corpus Christi. That being said, the Navy came over in 1942 and approached Aransas County. They did land grab, and in 1943, the Navy opened up Aransas County Airport for the war effort. So it's its 80th birthday this year here in Rockport. Also, the U.S. Lexington, right down the road, she was commissioned in 1943. It's also her 80th birthday. So we had the opportunity to hold not only the Memorial Day event here in Rockport, but we're also celebrating these birthdays that, made up the Coastal Bend, especially in the aviation sector. So long story short, that's what we're doing. So we're promoting the history side of this to our kids, trying to get them involved in our local flight schools, high school, to flight school programs and that type of thing. But this is a really cool opportunity to push history. Next slide, please. Like I mentioned previously, this was our event in December. It's our largest to date. We estimated we had 3,000 to 4,000 people in attendance, and let me remind you, this is 2 weeks before Christmas. We had a lot of people out at the airport over 2.5 days. We had 85 what we call general aviation airplanes. That's just people flying in your little Cessnas and Pipers and Beechcrafts, that type of thing. And then we had 25 historical airplanes, which we call warbirds, that showed up to the event. Some of the pictures are hard to see, but you can see those in the background, the biggest being the B-25 bomber from San Marcos. And in this event, like I said, we've been pushing education. We gave away free flights to kids between the ages of 8 and 18, and we had 50 to 60 of those kids show up and take flights. It was one of the largest in the area. Next slide, please. So that's what we did in December. Here's our opportunity as Rockport. And as the city manager said, this is a seed planted for us to take and try to grow as big as we can. That being said, Go Wheels Up is a San Marcos Memorial Day event. One of the reasons we picked December for Rockport events is because everybody else had major weekends locked up with major shows. December was the only one we could grab because nobody had it on their schedule. Unfortunately for San Marcos, their event was canceled 7 weeks ago. And because we did such a good job in December, some of the participants that were scheduled to go to San Marcos called us and said, would you pick up the pieces and try to have an event in Rockport because there's nothing else scheduled that weekend. So our team at the airport has been working, chasing our tails to put an event together for Memorial Day weekend, knock it out of the park because we want that weekend for the foreseeable future. So this is our one shot at capturing a major weekend, especially for an air show. This is also Rockport's summer kickoff weekend. We usually have a lot of people coming here anyway. What makes this unique, especially for hotel motel tax, is you're not just getting people traveling here by car, they're coming by airplane. In December, we had weather that had about 200 airplanes at bay that were coming from Dallas-Fort Worth. So if people are flying in from Dallas-Fort Worth and West Texas, they're most likely going to stay in the hotel. So we're not just capturing vehicles coming in, we're capturing airplanes flying in, so we are double dipping on potential tourists coming to Rockport using an aviation event. Education highlights, like I said, we're really pushing the local area history, but we now have the opportunity not to have one air event, we have two, so we will hopefully follow up in December, which will be more of the seminar, more of the, how do you take a career in aviation as a high school and junior high kid in the Coastal Bend. So that was the education highlights. Next slide, please. Why do we need hot funds? I don't know if you've been out to the airport, but it is a historical site. Like I said, this was built for the war effort in 1943. So this is a historical place here in the county and in the city, which qualifies for hot funds to be used. So we're grabbing a hold of not just the education and the advertising, but the historical preservation of our airport and the airplanes that were here. Next slide, please. Why are we asking the city of Rockport? The event location is in city limits. So the FBO, or some people know as the terminal building, is located in the city limits of Rockport. So that's the zoning map you see there, and on the right side is the event location. Like I said, it's right there where we're going to have all the airplanes and all the vendors. So that's why we're coming to the city of Rockport. Next slide, please. Why do we need hot funds? We estimate we're going to spend $35,000. First and foremost is safety. So I don't know if any of you know about the Commemorative Air Force. They've been around for a long time, but they are the ones with the warbirds and the crews that make it happen. Because everybody was going to San Marcos, we are able to grab, if we raise the money, their A team, which would be the marshaling detachment team, which will allow people and families to walk up to an airplane and touch, hug, talk to the pilots. They get to get up close and personal with airplanes, not just the regular airplanes, but the warbirds. And whenever those engines start up, we get everybody away. So it's a team of people that makes the ramps what we call safe. The flat line detachment, that's making sure all those round engines from the 1940s run the way they should. So we're bringing the line detachment. We need an extra fuel truck at the airport because we're expecting so many airplanes this Memorial Day weekend that one truck is not going to be enough. We need two. Third is fuel for the event. A lot of these airplanes that we're bringing in that qualify for fuel are 1955 built or older. Most of them are in the 40s. And they're largely owned by nonprofits, and we need to help them with their operation costs if they're going to bring their airplanes to Rockport. So fuel is one of the biggest line items for that. For example, the B-25 bomber coming out of San Marcos burns, to get here and back will probably take 400 gallons of fuel. That's a lot of fuel for one airplane. So you multiply that by, other airplanes coming, we need a lot of fuel. In our packet, that's where majority of the Rockport Hot Funds would go, is fuel promotion to bring these airplanes to Rockport. And then everything else from law enforcement help, event setups, it's all, it all takes money. So we are looking to y'all to help us prop up this event, either through hot funds and or sponsorship. If funds are not available, we may consider sponsorship. But we think this is one of the best things that Rockport has the opportunity to grab that's come along in a long time. Next slide, please. So we not only are asking Aransas County, City of Rockport, we also are asking local businesses to support the event. And we do have several that have come on board. And I do apologize for the timing of this because usually we would be a year in advance, 2 years in advance to plan this. But since it was, hey, San Marcos is canceled, y'all have the opportunity. We're doing our best to grab that opportunity and run with it. So again, forgive us for being short notice on it, but this is the hand we were dealt with it. So thank you for your time.
What you do.
Thank you.
All right. And I wish I had all the money to give you. I wish that we had the hot funds. We could just say, here, go. But we have no data. And that's what this first event will be. And, when you come back in June, July, whenever we do the hot funds and you give us everything, we can go, dude. Okay?
And that's kind of had to piggyback off that, is that I really do appreciate what you're doing. I think it's a great event. But without that data, and it's without having any information for us in front of us to say, hey, it is an event that's going to bring people, heads and beds. That's what Hot Funds is for. And they are very particular on their rules. We have to make very sure that we're careful on how we distribute it and how we handle it. So just thank you for doing it, and please come back with the numbers, and I think we can definitely help you out with that.
I understand, and Aransas County has given us $8,000 in their hot funds, and so we are going to be doing the surveys on where people come from, what zip code, are they staying the night, where are they staying the night. So it's a free event, and so that being said, to get in the event, you have to take the survey. So that's both ground and air, and then how we're going to capture that data.
I appreciate everything. I know how hard you worked on this, and I've talked with you several times about it. I wish there was something more that we could do, but it's the wrong time of the year, and we have to rely heavily on our manager and what she believes, and I wish we could help, but I just don't see it. We need a motion because it's an action item.
Mayor, question. Is there a precedence or is there a legal reason why we cannot give hot funds at this time if the county was able to?
We're able to. If you guys want to do it, we certainly can. But again, our collections aren't in. We don't know where we're gonna land. So if you're giving it and the hot funds don't come in for it, you're gonna have to make it up out of the general fund. And don't have the tested data. Now, you certainly can give it. I mean, with the projections, and we have a healthy hot fund reserve, if it doesn't make it, we can take it out of there. So it's not a no. Y'all have the option.
Can we not get out of the hot fund reserve right now? Because we didn't use all of our hot funds from last year. We put some into the reserve. Is that not applicable to this event?
I can't.
So we didn't use all our hot funds from last year. So it's in your yes. So I get that question, that we can do it, but I do have concern, I had attended the TDC meeting just about a month ago, and with hot funds, I mean, the way they explain it, they're really getting down to a point where they're really making sure that you're doing it correctly and making sure you're getting the right data, you're making sure you're doing all this stuff, and not just, and I'm the liaison for that committee, so I do go to there, and again, I think you're doing it right, but I really have to side on the edge of being cautious that we do it the correct way, otherwise it can come back and, it's not gonna be a good situation for anyone who does get all the hot funds. We also have people who have hot funds who have all this data, and we require them to do it, and then now we're gonna give out hot funds and then not have that requirement for you. So I have to think of it on that side of it, not just if we have it or not.
And you're opening the door for everybody to come at any time of year.
So I have to think of all those different avenues of how that works.
I understand what y'all are saying. How about a city sponsorship? Something to give to this event.
Yep, we can do a sponsorship as the city.
Yeah, I would think that'd be a good idea.
Great.
I make a motion that we become platinum sponsors for the Warbirds over South Texas event.
Second.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it, but I have a question. What was the platinum?
5,000
The 5,000, okay.
and some other stuff.
I have a motion and a second. Any further question? Not, we'll call for a vote. Ward 1.
Aye.
Ward 3.
Aye.
Ward 4.
Aye.
Mayor, aye. So it passes. Thank you.
Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you very much.
Are you guys still doing the flight down and around and back? You didn't talk about that.
So if you go back to the executive summary, if it's still there, is one of the things we're going to do for the area, if we get enough warbirds down here, is because it's the 80th birthday of the Lexington, we're going to have a warbird parade launching out of Rockport. So it's right now we have 6. We're hoping to have up to 20. We will take off. We will hug Key Allegro, take the beach downtown, and then we will pass over Ocean Drive, take the Lexington, the aquarium down our left wing, North Beach. We'll loop back, hit Rockport Beach one more time, land, and then everybody else can come see the airplanes. So we're hoping that not just, and I know this is, now we're not talking about hot funds since you're a sponsor, is we're going to be grabbing a lot of people out of Corpus down for Memorial Day weekend to hopefully come to Rockport. And because it's a free event for families, and that's our heavy promotion, you can go to Rockport Beach, you're going to spend whatever it is, $20-30 for a permit, and everybody else is, have entry fees. You can look up, see a bunch of airplanes, and go to the airport and have a free event as a family, free parking. And so we think we're going to draw a lot of folks from neighboring counties that are visiting anyway. So hopefully it gives Rockport another, hot button to visit later on next year in 2024. So yeah, the parade's going to be pretty cool.
Thank you, Cody. Item number 22, city manager report.
I'm sorry,
Your turn.
have nothing.
Have nothing. Reports from council.
Ward 1's hopping. The second Saturday event a couple weekends ago, we actually had, at least 2 businesses do their best sales day ever. So thanks everybody who went down for that. That was on Easter weekend. The next one is going to be on World Collage Day, which is May 13th. More information on that. And then on the 16th of June, or no, not 16th, the 8th of June is going to be, we're going to yard bomb. It'll be fun. Lots of information will be put out real soon, so watch out for that. I will say it because there's an election going on. The charter amendments and the selling of the gas station are on the ballot, and we really need everybody to go out and vote.
Ward 3.
He's got nothing and it's too hard to hear on Zoom.
Okay. 4.
I do not have anything right now. Very quiet.
Mayor, very briefly, attended a fundraiser for the Children's Coalition of Aransas County, and they're doing a fantastic job of working with families that need help with their kids. They've got a school going on for preschool kids, and they have teachers that they are beginning to hire. They're planning on increasing the size of their preschool school for kids, and they're doing a tremendous job in helping out our community. And it was great being there, and I appreciated being invited to their plant and having an opportunity to write them a check along with a lot of other people. But do support them if you get a chance. They do a great job. And I have nothing else. City Council will hold an executive session pursuant to provisions of Section 551 of the Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551.071, consultations with attorneys seeking the advice of attorney about pending or contemplated litigation or a settlement offer, known a matter in which the duty of attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the chapter, Concho Street, and General Land Office GLO drainage projects, and Section 551.072, deliberations about real property to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiations with a third person considered the possible purchase of the real property. It is 8:30 and we are in executive session. we're back in regular session.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Done.
Poor Brad couldn't even get back on sound.
Love you, Brad.
Couldn't hear him anyway.
Dang, I mean, that was quick.